Chapter 4. The Keeper of the Keys. Boom. They knocked again. Dudley jerked awake. "Where's the cannon?" he said stupidly. Of course, the spawn of Petunia Evans would be that thick. Acorns rarely fall far from the withered tree. There was a crash behind them, and Uncle Vernon came skidding into the room. He was holding a rifle in his hands. Now they knew what had been in the long, thin package he had brought with them. Firearm against magic. The profound, staggering ignorance of the average Moogle. It would be amusing if it weren't so pathetically predictable. "Who's there?" he shouted. "I warn you, I'm armed. Armed. With a stick against a hurricane." Delusional. There was a pause. Then, smash. The door was hit with such force that it swung clean off its hinges, and with a deafening crash landed flat on the floor. Subtlety. A concept entirely foreign to Rubeus Hagrid, blundering in like a troll in a potions lab. A giant of a man was standing in the doorway. His face was almost completely hidden by a long, shaggy mane of hair and a wild, tangled beard, but you could make out his eyes, glinting like black beetles under all the hair. Hagrid, sent to fetch the Potter brat, because Albus, in his infinite wisdom, trusts the oaf who couldn't complete his education. Naturally, the standards at Hogwarts. Slipping, the giant squeezed his way into the hut, stooping so that his head just brushed the ceiling. He bent down, picked up the door, and fitted it easily back into its frame. The noise of the storm outside dropped a little. He turned to look at them all. "Couldn't make us a cup o' tea, could, yeah? It's not been an easy journey. Priorities. Smash the door. Then demand refreshments." Typical Gryffindor logic. If one could call it logic. He strode over to the sofa where Dudley sat frozen with fear. "Budge up. Yeah, great lump," said the stranger. Dudley squeaked and ran to hide behind his mother, who was crouching, terrified, behind Uncle Vernon, watching. That monstrous nephew cower is almost satisfying. "Petunia's precious piglet. "And here's Harry," said the giant. Harry looked up into the fierce, wild, shadowy face, and saw that the beetle eyes were crinkled in a smile. "Last time I saw you, you was only a baby," said the giant. "Yeah, look a lot like your dad, but yet got your mum's eyes, like James Potter. Swaggering, arrogant Potter. The resemblance is sickening, and those eyes, her eyes, looking out of his face, an insult, a constant, unbearable reminder. Dumbledore's orders. Focus on the eyes, not on the rest of him." Uncle Vernon made a funny, rasping noise. "I demand that you leave at once, sir," he said. "You are breaking and entering." The Muggle puffing himself up, amusing in a pathetic way. "Ah, shut up, Dursley." "Yeah, great prune," said the giant. He reached over the back of the sofa, jerked the gun out of Uncle Vernon's hands, bent it into a knot as easily as if it had been made of rubber, and threw it into a corner of the room. Uncle Vernon made another funny noise, like a mouse being trodden on finally, a shred of competence. Though brute strength is hardly impressive magic, still, watching Dursley deflate is acceptable. "Anyway, Harry," said the giant, turning his back on the Dursleys. "A very happy birthday, yeah. Got summat fur yeah, here. I might have sat on it at some point, but it'll taste all right." From an inside pocket of his black overcoat, he pulled a slightly squashed box. Harry opened it with trembling fingers. Inside was a large, sticky chocolate cake with "Happy Birthday, Harry" written on it in green icing. Sentimentality, and a crushed cake retrieved from Merlin knows where. Utterly unsanitary. Potter looks suitably overwhelmed by the sheer vulgarity of it. Harry looked up at the giant. He meant to say thank you, but the words got lost on the way to his mouth, and what he said instead was, "Who are you?" The giant chuckled. "True, I haven't introduced myself. Rubeus Hagrid, keeper of keys and grounds at Hogwarts." He held out an enormous hand and shook Harry's whole arm. "What about that tea, then? Eh?" he said, rubbing his hands together. "I'd not say no ter somewhat stronger if ya have got it. Mine. The of keys and forbidden creatures, no doubt. Introductions over cake and a request for stronger drink. A stellar role model for the boy who lived. Albus's choices are questionable." His eyes fell on the empty grate with the shriveled chip bags in it, and he snorted. He bent down over the fireplace. They couldn't see what he was doing, but when he drew back a second later, there was a roaring fire there. It filled the whole damp hut with flickering light, and Harry felt the warmth wash over him as though he'd sunk into a hot bath. Elementary. Fire-making. Even Longbottom could manage that by mid-term. Though I suppose for Potter, raised by these cretins, it seems miraculous. How provincial. The giant sat back down on the sofa, which sagged under his weight, and began taking all sorts of things. Out of the pockets of his coat, a copper kettle, a squashy package of sausages, a poker, a teapot, several chipped mugs, and a bottle of some amber liquid that he took a swig from before starting to make tea. Soon the hut was full of the sound and smell of sizzling sausage. Nobody said a thing while the giant was working. But as he slid the first 6 fat, juicy, slightly burnt sausages from the poker, Dudley fidgeted a little. Uncle Vernon said sharply, "Don't touch anything he gives you, Dudley." The giant chuckled. "Darkly, your great puddin' of a son. Don need fattening any more. Dursley, don't worry." P passed the sausages to Harry, who was so hungry he had never tasted anything so wonderful. But he still couldn't take his eyes off the giant, a traveling menagerie disguised as an overcoat. Sausages cooked on a poker in a storm-wrecked shack, barbaric, and Potter wolfs them down like a starved Kneasel. Raised like an animal. How fitting. Finally, as nobody seemed about to explain anything, he said, "I'm sorry, but I still don't really know who you are." The giant took a gulp of tea and wiped his mouth with the back of his hand. "Call me Hagrid," he said. "Everyone does. And, like I told ya, I'm keeper of keys at Hogwarts. You'll know all about Hogwarts. O' course." No," said Harry. "No. Sorry," Harry said quickly. "Sorry," barked Hagrid, turning to stare at the Dursleys, who shrank back into the shadows. "Bits them as should be sorry. I knew ya weren't getting your letters, but I never thought ya wouldn't even know Abu Hogwarts. Fur crying out loud. Did ya never wonder where your parents learned it all? All what? Asked Harry. All what? Hagrid thundered. Now wait just 1 second. He had leaped to his feet. In his anger he seemed to fill the whole hut. The Dursleys were cowering against the wall. Ignorant, completely ignorant. These muggles, these vermin, kept him in the dark about everything, about her world. They dared lock away her legacy. They dared pretend Lily Evans never existed. They deserve worse than cowering. They deserve, do you mean to tell me, he growled at the Dursleys, that this boy knows nothing about anything? Harry thought this was going a bit far. He had been to school, after all, and his marks weren't bad. I know some things, he said. I can, do math and stuff. But Hagrid simply waved his hand and said, about our world. I mean, your world, my world, your parents' world. What world? Math and stuff. How utterly muggle he understands. Nothing. He is nothing yet, just a vessel for a scar and his father's arrogance. Hagrid looked as if he was about to explode. Dursley, he boomed. Uncle Vernon, who had gone very pale, whispered something that sounded like metal wimble. Hagrid stared wildly at Harry. But yeah, must know about your mum and dad, he said. I mean, they're famous. You're famous. What? My mum and dad weren't famous. Were they famous? Famous for dying. Famous for spawning him. Famous for James Potter's undeserved heroics. And Lily, trapped in that narrative. Reduced to Potter's wife. Potter's victim. Famous. A curse. Yeah. Don't know. Hagrid ran his fingers through his hair, fixing Harry with a bewildered stare. Yeah, Dan know what yeah are, he said finally. Uncle Vernon suddenly found his voice. Stop, he commanded. Stop right there, sir. I forbid you to tell the boy anything. Forbid the gall of the muggle, as if his prohibitions hold any weight against magic, against destiny, against my obligation. A braver man than Vernon Dursley would have quailed under the furious look Hagrid now gave him. When Hagrid spoke, his every syllable trembled with rage. You never told him what was in the letter Dumbledore left for him. I was there. I saw Dumbledore leave it. Dursley. And you've kept it from him all these years. Kept what from me? Said Harry eagerly. Stop, I forbid you, yelled Uncle Vernon in panic. Aunt Petunia gave a gasp of horror. Ah, go boil your heads. Both of you, said Hagrid. Harry, you're a wizard. There was silence inside the hut. Only the sea and the whistling wind could be heard. A what? Gasped Harry. Finally, the great revelation. You're a wizard, Airy, delivered with all the eloquence of a concussed troll. But the shock on Potter's face, the sheer incomprehension. Good. Let him feel the ground shift beneath his pampered muggle existence. Let him begin to grasp what he truly is and what he owes. A wizard, o' course, said Hagrid, sitting back down on the sofa, which groaned and sank even lower. And a thumpin', good 'un, I'd say, once ya have been trained up a bit, with a mum and dad like yours. What else would ye be? And I reckon it's able time ye read your letter. Harry stretched out his hand at last, to take the yellowish envelope, addressed in emerald green to Mr. H. Potter, the floor, who turned the rock, the sea. He pulled out the letter and read, "Thumpin' Good'un, based on what? His pedigree. We shall see, Hagrid, we shall see. Talent isn't inherited like hair color, though arrogance certainly seems to be. Let him read his summons. Let the weight of expectation begin. Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry Headmaster Albus Dumbledore, Order of Merlin, First Class, Grand Sorcerer, Chief, Warlock, Supreme Mugwump, International Confed, Wizards. Dear Mr. Potter, we are pleased to inform you that you have been accepted at Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. Please find enclosed a list of all necessary books and equipment. Term begins on September 1st. We await your hour by no later than July 31st. Yours sincerely, Minerva McGonagall." Deputy Headmistress questions exploded inside Harry's head like fireworks, and he couldn't decide which to ask first. After a few minutes he stammered, "What does it mean? They await. Meow. Gallopin' Gorgons." "That reminds me," said Hagrid, clapping a hand to his forehead with enough force to knock over a cart horse. And from yet another pocket inside his overcoat he pulled an owl, a real, live, rather ruffled-looking owl, a long quill, and a roll of parchment. With his tongue between his teeth, he scribbled a note that Harry could read upside down. "Dear Professor Dumbledore," given Harry his letter, taking him to buy his things tomorrow. "Weather's horrible. Well, Hagrid owl from his pocket. Naturally, along with quill and parchment, does he keep a nesting pair in there too?" The informality of the note to the headmaster. Weather's horrible, profound. Dumbledore will no doubt find it charmingly rustic. I find it idiotic. Hagrid rolled up the note, gave it to the owl, which clamped it in its beak, went to the door, and threw the owl out into the storm. Then he came back and sat down as though this was as normal as talking on the telephone. Harry realized his mouth was open and closed it quickly. "Where was I?" said Hagrid. But at that moment, Uncle Vernon, still ashen-faced but looking very angry, moved into the firelight. "He's not going," he said. Hagrid grunted. "I'd like to see a great muggle like you stop him," he said. "A what?" said Harry, interested. "A muggle," said Hagrid. "It's what we call non-magic folk like them. And it's your bad luck you grew up in a family, oh, the biggest muggles I ever laid eyes on. Biggest muggles, an understatement. They are the distilled essence of willful ignorance and petty cruelty. Potter's bad luck indeed. Though it might have instilled some humility, unlikely. We swore when we took him in we'd put a stop to that rubbish," said Uncle Vernon. "Swore we'd stamp it out of him." "Wizard indeed. You knew," said Harry. "You knew I'm a wizard." "Knew," shrieked Aunt Petunia suddenly. "Knew, of course. We knew. How could you not be, my dratted sister being what she was? Oh, she got a letter just like that and disappeared off to that school and came home every vacation with her pockets full of frog spawn, turning teacups into rats. I was the only one who saw her for what she was, a freak. But for my mother and father, oh no, It was Lily this and Lily that. They were proud of having a witch in the family. Freak. She called Lily a freak. That spiteful, jealous, small-minded, harpy Lily. Brilliant, vibrant Lily, reduced to frog spawn and rats by her bitter, magicless shadow of a sister. The sheer venom. It burns, even now. Petunia Evans, no, Dursley, deserves everything coming to her. She stopped to draw a deep breath and then went ranting on. It seemed she had been wanting to say all this for years. Then she met that Potter at school, and they left and got married and had you. And of course, I knew you'd be just the same, just as strange, just as abnormal. And then, if you please, she went and got herself blown up, and we got landed with you. Harry had gone very white. As soon as he found his voice, he said, blown up. You told me they died in a car crash. Got herself blown up, as if Lily stumbled into it, as if she wasn't murdered, as if Potter wasn't too arrogant and incompetent to protect her. And they told the boy, a car crash. Contemptible, utterly contemptible. Car crash. Roared Hagrid, jumping up so angrily that the Dursleys scuttled back to their corner. How could a car crash kill Lily and James Potter? It's an outrage, a scandal. Harry Potter not knowing his own story when every kid in our world knows his name. But why? What happened? Harry asked urgently. The anger faded from Hagrid's face. He looked suddenly anxious. I never expected this, he said in a low, worried voice. I had no idea when Dumbledore told me there might be trouble getting hold of ye. How much ye didn't know. Ah, Harry, I don't know. Ah, Harry, I don't know if I'm the right person to tell ye. But someone's gotta. Ye can't go off to Hogwarts not knowing. He threw a dirty look at the Dursleys. Well, it's best ye know as much as I can tell ye, mind. I can't tell ye everything. It's a great mystery, parts of it. He sat down, stared into the fire for a few seconds, and then said, It begins, I suppose, with a person called. But it's incredible ye don't know his name. Everyone in our world knows who. Well, I don't like saying the name. If I can help it. No one does. Why not? Gulping gargoyles. Harry, people are still scared. Blimey, this is difficult. See, there was this wizard who went bad as you could go. Worse than worse. His name was... Hagrid gulped, but no words came out. Fear, even now, years later, they fear the name. Cowards, power respects power, not cowering, though even I concede. Caution is prudent, especially with the boys so ignorant. Could you write it down? Harry suggested. Nah, can't spell it. All right, Voldemort. Hagrid shuddered. Don't make me say it again. Can't spell it. Of course he can't. 3 decades of magical atrophy. The Dark Lord deserves better than this stumbling eulogy from a half-giant. Groundskeeper. Anyway, this wizard, about 20 years ago now, started looking for followers. Got him, too. Some were afraid. Some just wanted a bit o' his power, 'cause he was getting himself power. All right. Dark days, Harry. Didn't know who to trust. Didn't dare get friendly with strange wizards or witches. Terrible things happened. He was tucking over. Course, some stood up to him, and he killed them. Horribly. The only safe places left was Hogwarts. Reckoned Dumbledore's the only one you-know-who was afraid of. Didn't dare try talking the school. Not just then, anyway. The only one he feared. True, Dumbledore. The only check on that power. The only reason any of us survived. Now, your mum and Dad were as good a witch and wizard as I ever knew. Head boy and girl at Hogwarts in their day. Head boy, James Potter. Proof positive the title is meaningless. A popularity contest won by the arrogant Quidditch star and his band of marauding thugs. And Lily, head girl. Excellence recognized, at least deserved. Unlike him, suppose the mystery is why you-know-who never tried to get M on his side before. Probably knew they were too close to Dumbledore to want anything to do with the dark side. Maybe he thought he could persuade M. Maybe he just wanted M out of the way. All anyone knows is he turned up in the village where you was all living on Halloween 10 years ago. You was just a year old. He came to your house, and Hagrid, suddenly pulled out a very dirty, spotted handkerchief and blew his nose with a sound like a foghorn. "Sorry," he said, "but it's that sad New Year Mum and Dad and nicer people couldn't find. Anyway, you-know-who killed M. and then this is the real mystery of the thing. He tried to kill you, too. Wanted to make a clean job of it, I suppose. Or maybe he just liked killing by then. But he couldn't do it. Never wondered how you got that mark on your forehead. That was no ordinary cut. That's what you get when a powerful, evil curse touches you. Took care of your mum, Dad, and your house, even. But it didn't work on you, and that's why you're famous. Harry. No one ever lived after he decided to kill M. No one except you, and he'd killed some the best witches and wizards of the age. The McKinnons, the Bones, the Pruitts, and you was only a baby, and you lived. Nicer people, could find Hagrid's maudlin sentimentality. Potter was an arrogant fool who got Lily killed, and the mystery, the boy lived, a fluke, a twist of magic no one understands, not valor, not power, luck. And now he's famous for surviving what his mother died trying to prevent. The irony is, bitter. Something very painful was going on in Harry's mind. As Hagrid's story came to a close, he saw again the blinding flash of green light, more clearly than he had ever remembered it before, and he remembered something else. For the first time in his life, a high, cold, cruel laugh. Hagrid was watching him sadly. Took ya from the ruined house myself, on Dumbledore's orders. Brought ya to this lot, the killing curse, and his laugh. The boy remembers, intriguing, and then delivered. Here, to these people, Albus's mercy often resembles cruelty. Was it or mere oversight? Load of old tosh, said Uncle Vernon. Harry jumped. He had almost forgotten that the Dursleys were there. Uncle Vernon certainly seemed to have got back his courage. He was glaring at Hagrid, and his fists were clenched. "Now, you listen here, boy," he snarled. "I accept there's something strange about you. Probably nothing a good beating wouldn't have cured. And as for all this about your parents, well, they were weirdos. No denying it, and the world's better off without them, in my opinion. Asked for all they got. Getting mixed up with these wizarding types, just what I expected. Always knew they'd come to a sticky end. Weirdos, better off without them. Asked for all they got. Be dares speak of Lily, of James Potter even, like that, to their son. The fury is a white-hot blade. If I were there, if I could curse." But at that moment, Hagrid leapt from the sofa and drew a battered pink umbrella from inside his coat. Pointing fists at Uncle Vernon like a sword, he said, "I'm warning you, Dursley, I'm warning you. One more word. In danger of being speared on the end of an umbrella by a bearded giant." Uncle Vernon's courage failed again. He flattened himself against the wall and fell silent. "That's better," said Hagrid, breathing heavily and sitting back down on the sofa, which this time sagged right down to the floor. "Good. Crush the insect. Though an umbrella, how inelegant, still effective." Vernon Dursley, silenced. A rare moment. Put up peace. Harry, meanwhile, still had questions to ask. Hundreds of them. But what happened to Volume? Sorry, I mean, you know who. Good question, Harry. Disappeared. Vanished. Same night he tried to kill you. Makes Yare even more famous. That's the biggest mystery. See, he was getting more and more powerful. Why'd he go? Some say he died. Codzalop, in my opinion. Dunno if he had enough human left in him to die. Some say he's still out there, biding his time. But I don't believe it. People who was on his side came back to ours. Some of 'em came out a kinda trances. Dan reckoned they could have done if he was coming back. Most of us reckon he's still out there somewhere, but lost his powers. Too weak to carry on. Cause something about you finished him, Harry. There was something going on that night he hadn't counted on. I don't know what it was. No one does. But something about you stumped him, all right. Hagrid looked at Harry with warmth and respect, blazing in his eyes. But Harry, instead of feeling pleased and proud, felt quite sure there had been a horrible mistake. Something about you finished him. More sentimental drivel. It was Lily, her sacrifice, her love, a magic older and stronger than any curse the Dark Lord knew. That's what saved the brat, not anything inherent in him. Hagrid feeds the boy's undeserved legend. Disgusting, a wizard. Him. How could he possibly be? He'd spent his life being clouted by Dudley and bullied by Aunt Petunia and Uncle Vernon. If he was really a wizard, why hadn't they been turned into warty toads every time they'd tried to lock him in his cupboard? If he'd once defeated the greatest sorcerer in the world, how come Dudley had always been able to kick him around like a football? Hagrid, he said quietly, I think you must have made a mistake. I don't think I can be a wizard. To his surprise, Hagrid chuckled. Not a wizard, eh? Never made things happen when you was scared or angry. Harry looked into the fire. Now he came to think about it. Every odd thing that had ever made his aunt and uncle furious with him had happened when he, Harry, had been upset or angry, chased by Dudley's gang. He had somehow found himself out of their reach, dreading going to school with that ridiculous haircut. He'd managed to make it grow back. And the very last time Dudley had hit him, hadn't he got his revenge, without even realizing he was doing it? Hadn't he set a boa constrictor on him? Harry looked back at Hagrid, smiling, and saw that Hagrid was positively beaming at him. "See," said Hagrid, "Harry Potter, not a wizard. You wait, you'll be right famous at Hogwarts. Accidental magic, common in untrained children under stress. Hardly proof of exceptional power, though. Setting a boa constrictor on the cousin. Points for instinct, Potter, minus several thousand for control and subtlety. Typical. But Uncle Vernon wasn't going to give in without a fight. "Haven't I told you he's not going?" he hissed. "He's going to Stonewall High, and he'll be grateful for it. I've read those letters, and he needs all sorts of rubbish, spell books and wands, and, if he wants Turgo, a great muggle like you won't stop him," growled Hagrid. "Stop Lily Ann, James Potter's son, going to Hogwarts? You're mad. His name's been down ever since he was born. He's off to the finest school of witchcraft and wizardry in the world. 7 years there, and he won't know himself. He'll be with youngsters. Buy of his own sort for a change. And he'll be under the greatest headmaster Hogwarts ever had." Albus Dumbledore. "I am not paying for some crackpot old fool to teach him magic tricks," yelled Uncle Vernon. "Crackpot old fool. The muggle has sealed his fate now," insulting Albus Dumbledore in front of Hagrid. Stupidity truly knows no bounds. But he had finally gone too far. Hagrid seized his umbrella and whirled it over his head. "Never," he thundered, "insult Albus Dumbledore in front of me." He brought the umbrella swishing down through the air to point at Dudley. There was a flash of violet light, a sound like a firecracker, a sharp squeal, and the next second, Dudley was dancing on the spot with his hands clasped over his fat bottom, howling in pain. When he turned his back on them, Harry saw a curly pig's tail poking through a hole in his trousers. Uncle Vernon roared, pulling Aunt Petunia and Dudley into the other room. He cast one last terrified look at Hagrid and slammed the door behind. Dim a pig's tail. How poetically appropriate. A minor transfiguration, but fitting for the boy. Hagrid's spellwork is as crude as his manners, but the result is acceptable. Watching them flee is almost worth the sheer ineptitude of the casting. Almost Hagrid looked down at his umbrella and stroked his beard. "Shouldn't have lost me temper," he said ruefully, but it didn't work anyway. Meant to turn him into a pig, but I suppose he was so much like a pig anyway, there wasn't much left to do. He cast a sideways look at Harry under his bushy eyebrows. "Be grateful if ye didn't mention the anyone at Hogwarts," he said. "I'm not supposed to do magic, strictly speaking. I was allowed to do a bit, ter follow ye and get your letters to ye and stuff. 1. Oh, the reasons I was so keen to take on the job. Why aren't you supposed to do magic? Asked Harry. Oh well, I was at Hogwarts myself, but I, got expelled. To tell, yeah, the truth, in me 3rd year. They snapped me wand in half, and everything. But Dumbledore let me stay on as gamekeeper. Great man Dumbledore, expelled, naturally, and still attempting complex transfiguration with a snapped wand, hidden in an umbrella. Illegal, reckless, dangerous, and Dumbledore allows it. Great man. He has his blind spots. Hagrid is a gaping chasm in his judgment. The boy needs to understand the caliber of wizard fetching him. Why were you expelled? It's getting late, and we've got lots to do tomorrow, said Hagrid loudly. Gotta get up to town. Get all your books and that. He took off his thick black coat and threw it to Harry. You can kip under that, he said. Dan mine, if it wriggles a bit. I think I still got a couple dormice in 1 The pockets, deflecting, of course. The great oaf doesn't want to admit to harboring an acromantula or some other forbidden horror in his dorm room. Let Potter sleep under that filthy coat. Let him get used to discomfort. He'll find little coddling in my dungeons. Hogwarts awaits, Potter. We shall see if you live up to the legend, or drown in it. Dumbledore's orders. Protect the boy. Protect Lily's son. Even from himself. Even from me. So be it. Sleep well, Potter. Your miserable childhood ends. Your challenging education begins.